Well, howdy, everyone. This is Greg Martin, the Entrepreneur's Banker, and I have got an amazing guest with me today. I've got Jeremy Macliver, who is an entrepreneur. He's a podcaster. He is a certified EOS implementer, and he also has a business that really helps entrepreneurs do one of the most difficult things, but one of the most critical things that they have to do on a day in, day out basis, and that's finding, hiring, and retaining their talent. So as the entrepreneur's expert that we're going to dive in today, we're going to talk with Jeremy about his role in CoreFit hiring. So Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today, and appreciate your willingness to share knowledge.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company or companies. And really, what is the driving passion that you have that causes you to wake up and want to serve and support entrepreneurs every day?
It's great. So I'll just start way back when. And so I've always been like obsessed about how does a team function? How does it work? At 8 years old, I was timing my mom on vacuuming and streamlining household chores. So I mean, always, yeah, that is the sport I played in high school. I was constantly figuring out how do I get more out of my, whatever I was doing. I actually started running a body shop class. I turned into money-making class in school. And at 19, I was working in a body shop and I realized, why am I doing all of this? Because we were a flat rate, so we were basically commission-based. And I talked my boss into splitting my wages and making my first hire. And my first hire, the guy said, everything perfect. I thought this is going to be a landmine. I know what I'm doing. I'm 19. I got this whole world figured out. It's all in my hands. And about 4 weeks later, I was firing him. And it was a total train wreck.
Oh.
I have spent the last forever looking at what goes on in the hiring process. And I just consistently obsessed with what are we doing when we're there? Because sometimes we fall into some traps that we can share today. When we're in the hiring process and we become emotionally engaged into it. So I've realized I built several teams. I built a body shop in Phoenix and Tucson, and I grew a steel company. We doubled in size. All of those required us to make really smart hires. Mm-hmm. It was all about the team. You talk to any entrepreneur and they're like, it's the team I have around me. How do you get them around you? So that's my passion. That's what I get excited about.
And that is so critical to be able to realize that, one, you can't do it all. I just recently was reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and he talks about having the team around you and realizing that in using his term, the technician can't do everything, and you've got to rely on somebody. So we talk a lot about, and on this show and a lot of my writings, about how I believe every entrepreneur has got a Fab Five. Those are the 5 advisors, maybe another entrepreneur, hopefully a banker, an attorney, a CPA, that surround them, understand where they want to go, and then push them towards success. So why should someone look at you and at your CoreFit, your hiring coach, as one of the Fab Five? What do you bring to the table to help them?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I'm going to say we probably should only be a part of your Fab Five for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and then we should be gone. So I don't need to be a long-term Fab Five. There's other ones that can help you along the journey. Because the truth of the matter is once we build that system and that structure and you are hiring the right people and you built those skills, that's all my goal is. And once you got that, you're going to make all those decisions, not me. But the reason that you need it at the very beginning is too often you haven't got really clear on yourself and what kind of business you're building. And
whoa.
Yeah.
That's talking about getting real.
So we're going to challenge you on what your kind of business you're building so that we pick people that are aligned to that. And the second thing is that you need us for is we're going to dig into, once we've clarified, hey, Greg, this is the kind of business you're building, this is the kind of people we want to go after, you're going to find yourself falling in love with people in the interview process that don't fit that, and they're giving you signs and signals all over the place. And we need to help you through that so that you start reading those and start picking like, oh, that guy was great, but I'm not going to hire him, and start sifting through that so that you can get to those. Once you've mastered that skill, and we have a complete model for bringing them in, onboarding them, and taking them until they're fully engaged. Once you've mastered that and you got it in a good pipeline, we should be off your Fab Five.
Wow. But those are so powerful tools to be able to have. And I think that once you know those, and once you have that clearly defined and have the discipline to be able to read the people and let your intelligence, not your emotions, dictate hiring, that's a skill set that you're going to need as you grow your company, but it's the same skills over and over and over again.
Yep.
So that's a very powerful. I mean, you're really giving an entrepreneur, you're teaching the entrepreneur how to fish versus just giving them a fish.
Absolutely.
So COVID-19 and the shelter in place and all of the things that we have experienced in the last 2 months has flipped every single business on its ear. And beforehand, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about how that's impacted your business, how that's impacted my business. But how are some things that you really say that have changed in the core fit hiring in as you're coaching people? And I'm going to push you. I don't want to hear, well, it's just over Zoom now, it's not in person. I mean, give me something a little bit more meaty than that.
Yeah. So we have had our conversations do a full 180 from I can't let them go to I can't let them go. Let me clarify that. I can't let them go because we're so busy. I need them, and I'm going to keep bad people around, and I'm not going to make hiring decisions that I should. I'm just going to try to get warm bodies in to fill. To I can't let them go because we're in a crisis and I feel bad. But we're making the exact same decision, and we're at polar extremes in our business. And so we've had to coach people now on how do you transition to the right people empathetically and considerately, but pick the team that's actually going to get you through this versus the team that is just there and they know that you can't fire them because you got the PPP loan right now and you got it, And so entrepreneurs are still making the same excuse. They're just using a different resource for the same excuse on why they can't build a great team.
So are you finding that, is that driven from an emotional place, or is it just the uncertainty of other parts of their business are trickling in to say, well, this person maybe they really are a good person, or maybe they're not a good fit for us, but I know this devil, and so I've got all this other craziness going on in my world. I'd rather deal with the devil that I know than let that person go and then bring on someone else that I can't go shake their hand, be face to face, read their body language in person. And so that devil's unknown. So I'd rather just deal with the devil I know.
And you hit it right on the head. It's the devil I know versus the devil I don't. So you're right on with that. And so they're keeping people around and they're dragging them through this that really don't want to go with them, and it's unfortunate, but they don't, because we haven't mastered the skill of hiring and really getting through that. We're like, well, I'll just stick with the ones I got and we'll plug through this. And when we get to the other side, we're going to build back up. But I'm going to say, when we were on the other side and it was all positive and we were growing and building, we couldn't stop then either. So building a great team is a conscious decision. It works in recessions, it works in crazy times, and it works in good times. But it's a conscious decision. And over and over and over, you'll see that the entrepreneurs and the leaders that really win are the ones that make that decision.
Yeah. So I'm going to go off script a little bit here and ask to see if you can give us some type of nugget or give us some insight into how how an entrepreneur can start picking up the signs and being realistic with themselves. And you talked about earlier about going through the interview process and being able to discern the signals that they're putting out. What are maybe one or two signals that you constantly are coaching entrepreneurs on? Hey, that's a red flag and you're ignoring it.
Yeah. So let me talk about the habits that the entrepreneur should be doing first, the person doing the interview, and then I'll try to answer specifically maybe a red flag or two, because they'll pop up in a lot of different ways. But if I could give 2 points for really mastering the hiring process, 2 things that you can walk away with, is the first is shut up. I've watched so many hiring guys, and they'll just talk too much. So when you get in the interview, I'm here for one thing. I'm the buyer, you're the seller, Mr. Interviewer, and I'm going to ask you questions. Too often we start off with this big old thing about how great a company we have and blah, 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 and our mission, our vision, our values, and blah, blah. And then we ask them questions like they answered perfectly because we just told them the test right before we gave it to them. So don't share any of that stuff. Hey, Greg, I'm here to learn a little bit about you. And first thing I want to take off the table is I'm sure that you're an amazing banker. I'm sure that you got all those skills. I really want to learn about you, what makes you work. And then ask them, they jump right in the questions. Don't explain anything about the company or anything like that. So that's what I start with first. The second is to spend 95% of the interview pushing them away. The more that you feel like you're pushing them away, the more that you're going to stay in the right zone. So if I keep not convinced, even if I show it on my face, like I would shake my head sometimes even if they answer the right answer, whatever, I'm just constantly pushing them away. Remember, this is not time to be friends. We'll be friends later. If you're the right person, we're going to be best buds. But push them away. And then here's the one trick that I learned is the last 5 minutes of the interview, I'm going to take a hard left and I'm going to pull them in as hard as I can, whether I want to hire them or not. Yeah.
Even if you know that, hey,
even if I know. So I learned this as just to give you a little history. I used to have standing interviews where every Tuesday and Thursday I was running 6 to 12 interviews in a group interview session. I was running that much volume of people, and we had full-time employees that all their job was to fill the interview process. They were screening to make it to me, and from there I was filtering it down. I mean, so we were running a lot of these. The reason you do that last pull in is it's your sales pitch. And so whether I want to hire you or not, in that last minute, I'm like, Greg, this is the most amazing bank ever. And I'm going to go on this whole thing about what we're all about and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to share all of that stuff. When you walk away, you're like, wow, I hope I get that job. What you're going to do is you're going to tell some other people in the market about me, and it's going to build my brand.
Yeah.
So I'm making you an ambassador whether I want to hire you.
Whether I'm your employee or not.
So this is a true story. I had a year after I left the steel company, I was at an event. I was doing EOS and all this and helping companies. And somebody came up to me and said, hey, my son got a job at the steel company you used to work at. Like that was a badge of honor. Yeah. Because there was a reputation that if you got a job there, you were something.
Yeah.
And we all know those kinds of companies out there. And so by doing that pull at the very end where you all of a sudden try to pull them in, now they're working for your competitor going, if I ever get the chance, if they ever give me the opportunity. So that push pull, we have an entire book that dives deep into just how to do that. It's called Unmasked, How to Hire the Ones You Don't Want to Fire.
Okay.
And really get into how do we push them away and then pull? Because we're going to go through this a couple iterations where they're going to see us go pushing, and then they're going to see us pull, and they're going to see us push, and they're going to see us pull. And it gets us clear on, so they keep passing those filters. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on with the entrepreneur. What happens with the employee or with the interviewee is you need to watch for, are they repeating you? And one of the biggest bells and whistles that I'm looking for is when they answer everything perfectly. That means they're a professional interviewer, which means you probably don't want them.
Yeah. They've either had to go interview or they're going to use you as a stepping stone to the next job.
They've done this is their career, buddy, and you bought in hook and sinker. So if they're answering everything, if they're not stumbling, first of all, you might not be asking tough enough questions. And second of all, they're professional enough at this. So I look for that.
So let me ask you, have you thought back to your first hire? Because you said your first hire that only lasted 4 weeks answered everything perfectly.
Oh,
So
he
was
nailed
he
it.
a professional interviewer?
He was very good at what he did. He just knew how to, and he was just that. Some people just have that knack. I mean, as a baby of the family or whatever, they were just always able to just bounce through it and just, hey, whatever you want to hear, Greg, I'm just going to give you that. And he was that kind of a person, and it's great. He should have been in sales, not in a body shop, and he would have been perfect. But so he's not a bad person. He was just a bad fit. And so, yeah, I've definitely looked back on that one a couple of times.
And that's so counterintuitive, because if you're asking them a technical question or you're asking them about, okay, how proficient are they, or what are their thought process or their beliefs, you want to hire somebody that has done the homework, that knows your mission, vision, and values, that is, yes, I can live those things that you profess to be important. But that is so hard to, when they're saying, yeah, when it's lining up green light, green light, green light, that's actually a red light.
Yeah, because you and I are going to disagree. I mean, if we work together, we're going to disagree at certain points. We do not align on everything. And you are trying to find those spots where we won't align. Because that's the truth of the matter. With all of your employees, you're never going to have everybody as a perfect in unison, all green lights, hunky-dory type thing. And so you want people that are saying, I do struggle with that, or I have messed that up, or I don't know what you mean. Yes, it's great that they looked at our website, that, we would ask people, that's one question we love to ask. So did you check our website? Absolutely. They'd say it. And so we'd ask about something that was on it. Like, okay, you're a liar.
It's not like it's in fine print. It's like,
that was on the front page, buddy.
Scroll down like a half a scroll.
Just get down right below the fold, buddy. We put it right there just for you.
Crazy. So let me ask you another question. Do you feel that a long, lengthy interview process where you maybe have multiple people interview is more effective than a short one, or doesn't it matter?
It really depends on what you're hiring for. So you do have to meet the position where it's at. So if you're hiring a lot of frontline workers where there is a lot of turnover, like a restaurant or a lot of technician type based businesses, those people aren't going to endure a 6-month, 30-hour interview. You know what I'm saying? But where you're hiring, a professional like you that's a banker, and it's very critical, and it's a lot slower churn, then your interview process should be slower too. Okay. So they're going to kind of reflect that.
Gotcha. I've worked for the U.S. Army, and I've worked for the bank that I work for now. And in the bank that I work for now, I've lived in North Carolina and Texas. So really, I've only interviewed twice in my life. The Army was going to take me because it was pre 9/11 and I could breathe. So they were going to take anybody. But really, the things that, in my experience, having the multiple people, and when I moved down to Texas, it was a very inclusive. I mean, I interviewed with peers, basically to be able to kind of give them an opportunity to answer the questions that I have that only a peer could answer, versus a manager. And from my perspective, I really appreciated the thoughtfulness in my leadership to say, we want to make this right. And this is someone that knew me from the bank's metrics. I mean, they knew my performance, they knew my reputation. Like my boss's boss talked to my higher level manager. So yeah, I wasn't an unknown, but they still went through that whole process. And to me, it was really beneficial for me and made me feel good about moving my family 18 hours away.
That shows the integrity of the bank, though, to me, because too often we're hiring off of numbers and skill set, and it's really that you are the right person for that team. And the bank was cautious and protective of your coworkers and of you, and going through that, they were protecting, are you all going to sync up really well? Because if you don't, it's going to be a train wreck, and your numbers won't support it.
And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that's a lot of money that they invested in just logistically moving me and paying me to move across the country, to pay my expenses, to put me up in corporate housing, to the flights back and forth for my wife to be able to come and do visits. I mean, that was a true expense for a corporation that is not taken lightly. So it just as much as I got the benefit, they got the benefit of it too.
Absolutely.
Well, what are some things that as you have talked with entrepreneurs, maybe they've realized that their hiring system, their hiring practice is not where it should be, and they're coming to you and say, Jeremy, I really need CoreFit. I need to have a hiring coach. What are some mistakes that a vast majority of them are doing? Maybe one or two that are consistent across industries.
Yeah. And so I hit on one of them just a little bit ago, and that's the ability to self-reflect as you're in the interview process and not really being able to walk away and debrief what happened with that. And so sometimes they're like, okay, and I share push pull and you can go do it. But as you start working that craft, it's harder than
it's hard.
Yeah, you all of a sudden find, we're like, whoa, you fell in love with that person right there, man. Stop, take it out, man. They were giving you the signs that they weren't right, and so it's really just mastering that ability. Usually, by the time they come to me, they're struggling with turnover. They can't find good help. They're just, everybody's wanting a raise all the time. If everybody's wanting a raise, you've brought it down to the lowest common denominator. There's other things that they really do want, and we just haven't provided those, so they're going to negotiate on money.
So you really take your coaching far beyond hiring. I mean, that's a culture issue right there. And so you're going to come in and not only help entrepreneurs with their hiring, but you're going to help them to define their culture.
So that's when we can start looking into who you are, what kind of company you're building. That's going to shift your culture to what you're wanting. And you're going to find people that fit it, people that don't fit it. And we're going to help sort through that with you, start making some of those challenging decisions. And, one of the things I find is a lot of times our worst apples in the organization are our most passionate people. And if we get really solid on our values, on the kind of company we're building, and we can get them on board, they become our rock stars. They go from poor performance or from naysayers to the other side of it, because they're not passive people.
Mm-hmm.
Too often we dismiss them as just a bad person, but we need to get into what's going on in their world, because they could flip on us.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have a story about that? I mean, you were so specific about that. I know you're thinking of somebody.
Yeah. So I thought of a person. Actually, I'm going to give you a story that went good, bad, and back to good. So this person got hired for this company. They were in sales, and the company sells commercial and residential. They put him in residential sales. The guy was flourishing, doing amazing work, just really part of the team, go-getter. Well, commercial sales was like where you sell the big money, right? And so he got the promotion over to commercial sales, and over about a year's time started to fade. It started to turn into a cancer for the organization. And he popped up on our issues list as a troublemaker and not bought in, and he was starting to say stuff against the company. And finally we're like, wait a minute, this guy used to be really good. What happened? And when we dug down into it, he was horrible at paperwork. And commercial sales requires a lot of paperwork. Residential sales, I show up and say, hey, Greg, I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to tell you a lot of fun stuff, and they're going to support it behind the scenes. Right. And so he had gotten into a place where he'd become agitated because he was required to do something he wasn't naturally good at, and he began failing and feeling like a loser. We just shifted him back over to residential sales, and today he is doing amazing.
Wow. That's really cool to be able to realize it truly is, drawing on your EOS skill set, having the right person in the right seat to be able to support the overall goals of the entrepreneur. Because at the end of the day, it is the entrepreneur's call, but the entrepreneur has to be very clear on what they stand for, where they're going, and then to empower people to support them in the right way.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. So can you describe for us your best client? I'm a huge Mike Michalowicz fan. Pumpkin Plan was one of the books that really changed my way of thinking. So can you describe your pumpkin client, your perfect client, in 10 words or less?
So my perfect client is somebody that's blue collar, that loves results more than theory, typically 10 to 250 employees, and they're growth oriented. They hate status quo.
That's great. So I think that we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that are hopefully seeing this, that really fit those buckets and are passionate about growing, not taking status quo or normal for granted and wanting to do that. So I love this opportunity to be able to connect you with them. I'm going to ask for your contact information, but before we roll into that, let's go to the lightning round. I've taken a lot of your time already, but I was just kind of asked these. I want to know Jeremy a little bit as a person. So what was your favorite TV show growing up?
So I grew up without a TV.
Okay.
And I still don't own one to this day. So the answer is none.
None. Okay. All right. Well, you do not. You don't have to worry about mindless time going down. So, okay. What's your favorite thing for breakfast?
Apples and peanut butter.
Apples and peanut butter. All right. One person that if you were stranded on an island with, and they could be alive or they could be dead.
My wife.
Good answer. That's the best answer. Okay. You better say, I'm going to give a shameless plug for you for Blue Collar Culture. So if you are not listening to Blue Collar Culture, you need to go to Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever, podcatcher, wherever you go, you need to go and start doing that. I met Jeremy a couple weeks ago, and since then I think I've binge listened to your entire episode, your catalog. So I'm not going to let you say Blue Collar Culture. What is one podcast that we should be listening to right now?
Tractionville.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one too. So very good interviews on that one.
Sweet. Okay, I'll have to look that up. What is one book that every entrepreneur should read?
Traction.
I'll give you that softball. Gino in Traction. That was in addition to all the books that Mike Michalowicz has written that have changed and shaped me as an entrepreneur or someone trying to be A entrepreneur, trying to think like an entrepreneur.
A entrepreneur. I'm going to use that line. That is classic. A entrepreneur.
So, I cannot endorse that enough. I mean, that really does bring a lot of clarity and help. And I know that just your background, you definitely agree with that. So you shared a lot of amazing value with this group. You shared and been very open. What is the best way for entrepreneurs to be able to reach out to you, to connect with you, and see if maybe it's a right fit for y'all to work together?
Yeah, just email me at jeremy@bluecollarculture.com or jeremy@guaranteedtraction.com, and we'll set up a time to talk.
That's awesome. And I will have to give you a plug. It is no surprise because I think that you very much are assistance guy, but both of you are assistants in each one of the companies to be able to help coordinate everything. They do an amazing job, and it's very seamless, very professional. So I think that's something else we probably can talk about on another episode, is just how do you leverage tools, systems, virtual assistants to be able to support you. But thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing time and being here today.
Thanks, Greg.
Until next time, this is Greg Martin, the Entrepreneur's Banker. Hope you all enjoyed this time. Check out Jeremy, check out his podcast, check out his website. I know that you're going to get tremendous value out of it. Until next time, take care.